Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoy my video today, please subscribe, and if you click on the bell next to the subscribe button, you will be notified each time I post a new video. In today's video I'm going to show you the process for making these 6 cards. For this first card, I cut the tree shape using my scan and cut. I also cut a backing forward out of gold cardstock and mounted those two together. I then cut a piece of pattern cardstock to create a 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 card base, then a piece of pattern paper that's 5 inches by 5 inches and stuck that to the card base. The tree was then mounted to the card using foam tape. I also used foam tape to attach the bucket that the tree sits in. I used my Nellie's multi-frame star die to cut a star from the same pattern paper that I used to back the tree. I then attached my Christmas greeting using foam tape. I used the same cut file for this card as I used for the previous card, except I changed its dimensions. I created a 6x4 top opening card base and then cut several strips of 1/2 inch pattern paper. I attached these to the card base randomly. I then surrounded my die cut with foam tape, stuck a piece of paper over the base piece, and then attached the card with the cutout on top of the strips that I had secured to the card base. I used my Nellie's multi-frame star die to cut a gold star and attach that to the top of the tree. For the greeting I used a computer printed Merry Christmas, matted that onto some of the pattern paper that I'd used in the tree, and then used foam tape to attach that to the card. This card uses the tree that I cut out of the panel for the last card. It's a very simple card. The card base is 6 inches by 4 inches and the pattern paper is 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. I've embossed the Christmas tree cutout using Cuttlebug embossing folder. I inked around the edges of the tree and the little pot. Then glue was used to attach the assortment of gold circles to the Christmas tree so that it looked like Christmas decorations or Christmas baubles. I then inked around the edge of the pattern paper and tied a piece of ribbon around the bottom and tied a bow in it. I secured the ribbon at the back of the pattern paper panel with a piece of double-sided tape so it doesn't slide around. Foam squares were then used to attach the Christmas tree to the panel. The panel was then attached to the card base. Next, I tried a few different sized stars using my die, but one was too big, one was too small, so I ended up using a punch and punched a little star out of gold cardstock to attach to the top of the tree. I used a little wedge of foam tape to attach that star, and that completed that card. I used my scan and cut to cut the baubles for this card. The Cuttlebug Swiss Dots embossing folder was used to emboss the baubles. The card base is 6 inches by 4 inches and the pattern paper is 5 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. I've inked the edges of the baubles and the pattern paper and attached the gold hanging pieces of the baubles using some glue. The gold ribbon that makes the baubles look like they're hanging from the top of the card is attached using double-sided tape before the panel is stuck to the card. I tried doing it with glue, that didn't work, so then I reverted to the double-sided tape. The baubles are attached to the panel using foam squares and the panel is attached to the card base using foam squares, so there's plenty of dimension there. The greeting for the card is a computer printed greeting and is attached to the front panel using glue. I then used some scribbles, which is very similar to stickles, to create some textured dots on the baubles. I used my scan and cut once again for this card to cut the Christmas tree and the green piece that goes behind it as its backing. I cut the Christmas tree from a piece of pattern paper that was 2 3/4 inches by 4 inches. The green panel that I'm using here is 3 1/4 by 5 3/4, and I wrapped some red ribbon around that a few times and tied a bow. I then secured the ribbon in place on the back using a piece of double-sided tape. I attached that panel to the white card base. The card base is actually 6 inches by 4 inches, so that I had about 1/8 of an inch border at the top, the bottom and the left hand side. So this piece of green cardstock was 3 1/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches. The white piece of cardstock is 2 1/2 by 3 3/4, and I attached that to the pattern paper, which measured 2 3/4 by 4. The white cardstock had been embossed using the music notes embossing folder. I then attached that to the card base, leaving a 1/4 of an inch border at the top, between the top of the green card and the pattern paper, and about 1/4 of an inch on the left. I then used foam tape to attach the Christmas tree. I have not put a greeting on the outside of this card. My scan and cut was used to cut the baubles for this card as well. The card base for this card is 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. The green panel is 4 inches by 2 3/4. The white panel is 4 1/4 by 3, and the red panel is 4 1/2 by 3 1/4. The gold panel is 5 inches by 3 3/4. Each of these papers have had their edges distressed and inked, and then they were layered on top of each other using double-sided tape. I attached the baubles using a gold star brad and a little bit of glue to hold this bauble in place so it doesn't wriggle around. This panel was then attached to the card base using foam squares. Once again, I've used a computer printed greeting. I've inked the edges of it, matted it on some of the gold cardstock and used foam squares to mount that to the front of my card. Here are some close-ups of all of the cards that we've created today. I hope you enjoyed my video today. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see my new videos as they become available. I would love it if you would share my videos with your friends. I love reading your comments too, so please don't forget to leave one for me.